Welcome to another MBS Highway live monthly webinar. In August, our friends from Triibe Coaching joined us and gave us a masterclass on their lead converting response to the number one question buyers are asking: what is your rate? Well, today they are back with us to go deeper into their presentation that is getting buyers off the sidelines and the script that protects you from the dreaded rate shoppers. After your strategy help get their offer accepted. Now, the Triibe Coaching co-creators here with us today are Josh Metal, Ryan Grant, Mark Robertson, Danny Harani, and Chris Liddell. And they have a collective 100+ years experience, and they've achieved really great milestones. They have been ranked in the top 5 originators in the nation by volume. They hold the #1 loan officer spot in Orange County, California for several years running. And they host the Infinite Financial Freedom podcast, and they serve on Forbes Financial Council. Join us in welcoming Triibe Coaching.
Hey guys,
Thank you.
It's great to have you all here. We're looking forward to this because we got so much good feedback from the last one. What we love is that it's very usable, wonderful techniques that people today can improve what's happening in the marketplace, gain more business, more referral sources, help customers. And in this environment that we're in right now, it's nice that people that are on the front lines and practicing this with success can share those ideas. So thank you so much for coming back and doing this for our family of subscribers at MBS Highway.
Thank you guys so much for having us. We're just talking about that, how it feels so good in a market where a lot of us, Barry, are more insecure. We came off of a market where we were really confident. There was win after win after win. And I think narrowing the focus and getting really tactical around the things that are actually working and are providing results, it's so helpful for all of us. And so what you said really resonates, and the message from those of you that were with us last time, it's really validating for us too. So thank you for just having this platform and for providing it. Megan, thanks for throwing up this poll. We would love to know how many of you were actually here with us last time and got a chance to hear. If you could fill out that poll, we would love to just know if you were here. And Megan's popped that poll up right now in front of us. So if you could just take a minute to answer that. It's not working. Let's see if I can get that out of here. Okay, perfect. Love that. And I wanted to chalk up today what we plan to do, right? I think we want to attack 2 different problems that, based on feedback from this family, we're having. And in doing that, Barry and Dan and Megan, I just want to say thank you to you guys. I think we often take you for granted. You have been providing so much value every single day that I just come to expect this massive amount of value every single morning. When I hit play, I hear I get a master class in what's going on with really complicated markets. It's simplified for me. I'm to a point now, just by watching your videos, that I feel like I understand the market and I can talk at a level that most of my agents, a lot of financial professionals, I can hang with anyone now. And to say thank you for what you've done for all of us in our careers. I know I speak on behalf of all of us. You've just made us such great students that now we're out here prophesizing the stuff that you've taught us. And going off of what I said about being insecure, so many people, and you guys see this on a level that we do, they come to you and they're like, hey Barry, I have this problem. Dan, what would you do in this situation? And they're seeking this advice because you guys have been such great mentors to all of us. And the MBS Highway suite of products is unbelievable, and you're going to see it riddled through what we're using in the field today to have success at a really big level. And I want to do one thing and say we are really honored to be here. Like, it is a full circle moment for me to be in this group of people. I started watching you as early as I can remember, and I just attribute a lot of our success to the tools that you provide. And I don't want it to get diluted, right? It's every morning that you're providing this stuff. And number two, for all of you that might be watching, when your client says to you, hey, what's your rate? It is literally the equivalent of an amateur who doesn't play baseball walking out to the plate against one of the best major league pitchers of all time. That is what's really happening. Now, it doesn't feel that way. And Barry has given you this amazing education. You're so much smarter. You have so much value to add. You can empower that family to one of the best assets they're ever going to purchase. And I don't want you guys to lose sight of what's actually going on in the scarcity that the market is creating today. And so, number one is that we have buyers who are waiting for lower rates. And we want to attack that today. And problem number two is the dreaded rate shopper. A lot of us will provide all this value, all this input. We'll create an amazing strategy. We'll get the offer accepted. And then on the day that we get the acceptance, the client calls and says, you know what, Barry, I love you, man. We really want to go with you. You're so great, but we got to do what's best for our family now. And if you're anything like me, it is soul crushing when that happens. And so we want to focus on these two problems, take the feedback that we got from all of you on the first time, and just say, look, here's the two problems you guys are saying are the biggest issues. Let's tackle them one by one. And I'm going to pass this off now over to you, Josh, and just let you take it from here and guide us down this path, man. Good morning, buddy.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. It's great to be here, and I'm grateful to have all of these mortgage advisors who are pushing through these really challenging times. And to Mark's point, we have a huge advantage, which is we get to hear from the MBS Highway team every day, letting us know what's going on in the market, letting us know where the market is likely going. And our consumers don't have that advantage. So I'm going to share with you today the Bulletproof Buyer presentation that we were here a few months ago to share, but I'm going to share it with you in a little bit of a different way. I'm going to share it from the perspective of a coach coaching you what the intention is behind each of these slides at a little bit higher level than I would be if I was role playing with a customer. And I also want to make sure we hit on how we turn this, what started out as a conversion tool to take people from frozen and sitting on the fence to confident and committed to move forward and buying a home. And we're going to talk a little bit about how we turn that into a lead generation strategy as well. Before I share my screen, do we have the results of the poll up, just so that we know approximately how many of these attendees? Okay, cool. So the vast majority of you did not see the first webinar. That's fantastic. Thank you, Megan. I really appreciate that. Right on. Well, let's start out with identifying what the problem is that this presentation is intended to solve. I want to share with you from the first presentation that we did, sharing the Bulletproof Buyer presentation. I took a 1 minute, 17-second excerpt of that presentation and I put it on Instagram. That Instagram reel got 253,000 views. It was liked 1,785 times. There's 239 comments, and it was shared 4,116 times. It was watched for 1,754 hours. And you can go to my Instagram if you want to watch it. I'm not going to show the whole thing here. But what was really interesting was all of the comments. And if you go through and read the 239 comments, it basically said this. The comments were, rates are going up, not down. Home prices have to go down for affordability to return. And the only reason why you're saying this is because you're trying to sell us a mortgage. And that's fantastic. Now we know where the minds of the consumer are, and we can take the role of the educator and we can help people overcome those preconceived notions. Just this morning in the update, Barry and Dan talked about Jeremy Grantham saying that he thinks that home values could go down somewhere between 20 to 25%. So we are the counter narrative to the media's spin on the housing market. And the Bulletproof Buyer presentation that I'm going to coach you through here is our number one way to do that for our customers, the families we serve. We're trying to help into homes, but it's also the way that we have approached the realtor community to have them understand that we can turn the frozen fence sitters that are making decisions off of conjecture into families that are ready to take action. Now, one more thing I just want to share to give some insight, because I'm always trying to find out what's going on in the minds of the consumer and what is their problem. Because if I can understand my clients' problems, what their fears are, then I can help them be educated and overcome those fears. So this just came out this week. This is the Fannie Mae Consumer Sentiment Report. And in this report, I won't read the whole thing for you, but just check out this one section. In September, 16% of consumers reported that it's a good time to buy a home. That means 84% of consumers think it's a bad time to buy a home. And that matches an all-time low of the survey. So never have consumers been more bearish or pessimistic on the housing market than they are today. And as you go through and read the report, it's because mortgage rates. So the last time that I was here to share with you, we talked a lot about the competitive nature of the market, and the bulletproof buyer presentation was really set up to overcome multiple offer situations. Now, the market's turning for some of us. Some of us in the East, I was just at a mastermind last week, and they were saying, oh, we're still seeing 20 offers on homes. Some of us on the West are now seeing homes on the market, 30, 60 days. So we're in this transitional market, and if interest rates continue to go sideways to up, we're going to see a little bit more inventory, and so our buyer presentation should change, and you'll see a little bit of adaptation in this presentation today. So let's jump right into it, and I will kick off with this buyer consultation. And really, just from terms of framing, team, we start by learning what's going on in the client's life. We call that the dreams and goals call. We should probably call it the dreams, goals, and fears call right now. But I need to unearth what are the dreams of the family that I'm supporting, what are their goals, and what are their fears. Once I find out those things usually on an initial phone call, then I want to drive them to a Zoom meeting. And I want to nail this client consultation. It's just like I'm trying to create an experience like when they used to come into my office and I used to have hot drinks and cold drinks waiting for them and testimonials scrolling across the TV. I want to create that same type of impact with the consumer through Zoom. And the methodology that we're using to do that is the Bulletproof Buyer presentation. So I'll share my screen now. And yeah, this presentation is how we help families massively increase the odds of a successful home purchase.
And by the way, Josh, I just wanted to mention, I know you mentioned a Zoom meeting, but you can do this right in MBS Highway because we give you the ability to do that. So we make it very, very easy for you to do the screen share and have a meeting.
Absolutely. I actually just used that feature for the first time, Barry, yesterday. And then I did a recording of a loan comparison, and that tool is fantastic. So thank you for bringing that up. So we drive them to an interactive meeting where we frame up, hey, in the first conversation, we talked about your fears and your inhibitions and the things that were kind of making you so you didn't feel confident in making the decision to buy the home. Today, I'd like to show you some information. And my goal is that we move from conjecture to data, and then we make a decision based off that data. And I'm going to bring up all of the things that I got out of them in that first call. The first question that I like to ask them is, let me ask you a question. What do you think is going to happen to your local housing market when rates hit 5%? And 100% of the time, people kind of lean back in their chair and they go, well, if rates went to 5%, I think it's going to get crazy. Like there's going to be no inventory. We're going to be back to that bidding war. And if we're not in that place now. And that's the point, right? Our goal is to put you into a position where you're skating to where the puck is going and not to where it has been. And Barry's, he's given us all of this information. All we've done is we have just captured all the content Barry's given us, put it into a presentation, and then as we find clients who need this information, we have put it in a digestible way for them to understand. The next thing that I walk them through, I say, hey, the intention of our meeting time today is for us to go through what it takes to become a bulletproof buyer. And I believe there's really 4 components. Number one, you have to understand the market better than anybody else you're going to be competing with when it comes to buying a home. Oh boy, my 2 and 3 are mixed up there. So excuse me. I can count to 4, but I am dyslexic. So excuse me. The second piece is we want to have you have a fully underwritten loan approval. And the reason for that is because you can remove contingencies, you can complete with cash offers, and 9 times out of 10, you can negotiate a better price on the property. The third piece of this strategy is the appraisal gap strategy. There are areas and neighborhoods inside the market that you're looking where you may find yourself in a multiple offer situation, and we need to be able to deal with an appraisal coming in low. This is a great time to interject the bid over ask tool inside of MBS Highway. And then last but not least, if they're in a highly competitive market, if they have a home to sell before they can buy another home, I'm going to cover number 4, which is buy before you sell strategies with bridge loans and cash buyers. So this gives them an idea of what I'm going to take them through. Now, I'm going to go through this a little bit quicker than I would with a client because you've all listened to Barry teach this before. But this slide blows people away. If we just drive them to a consultation and walk them through the last 81 years of real estate performance and inform them that real estate has a 90% win rate, meaning that real estate goes up 90% of the time. And all I've done is just taken this information that Barry gave us, we broke it down by decade, and we just showed the cumulative appreciation decade by decade. And the big takeaway here is, even in this really scary time of the Great Recession, if you held the property through the 2000s, you still saw 66% appreciation. And if you held it through 2010s, you still saw 45% appreciation. And when I get to the end of this slide, I just ask one question. I say, does this surprise you? And I just wait. And every single time they say, I had no idea. This data absolutely blows my mind. And you can feel the confidence start to come back to them, and you can feel the excitement. All right, we then move on, and I saw a question in the chat. Will these slides be made available to us? Absolutely. We then move on to compare the last housing cycle to the current housing cycle. We've updated this information the best that we can. And here's the real big takeaway that I like to point out. What led to the Great Recession was a lack of underwriting discipline around subprime loans, loan products that were fixed for very short periods of time and had long prepayment penalties, and the fact that home builders just got out over their skis. They built 7.65 million homes in the lead up to the Great Recession, as compared to today, we've only built 4.6 million homes, and the demographics have completely changed. You see, Gen X, which I'm a member of, had a demographic pull down in terms of household formations right before the Great Recession. And today we have the millennials followed by Gen Z, and we have a lot more people who have jobs, and we've had a lot more household formations than we have homes being built. And that's the fundamental difference. It all comes down to supply and demand. And again, I'll pause at the end of this slide and I'll just say, does this surprise you? Is there any part of this that doesn't make sense? And by the time I get here and I get them to talk a little bit, that's like the fog has just moved off. And then I say, yes, I build on that excitement, that confidence that's going. And I'm going to say, and because of those factors, let's look what's happening with home appreciation right now. These are the aggregators of data around housing values. We've got Case-Shiller, FHFA, CoreLogic, Black Knight, Zillow. And you'll see as we move throughout the year in 2023, we're seeing positive appreciation, positive appreciation, positive appreciation. It was a little scary in January and February. We had a couple of these indices that were down, but now we're trending up. And the yellow highlights indicates that even though there was a little bit of pull down in values at the end of 2022 and the beginning of 2023, these are now indicating that we're at all-time highs in terms of housing values. So the housing market in terms of valuations is going up, not down. And if we average these and we annualize them over 2023, we see that the average pace for home appreciation is about 7%. And that's pretty close to what Zillow just came out today and said, they're anticipating 6%. So when it comes to overpaying, because you're probably a lot like me, you don't want to overpay for anything. You don't want to overpay for a mortgage. You don't want to overpay for 8% mortgage rates. But when it really comes down to overpaying, it's not buying a home soon enough that I see families making the mistake. Because if you're buying a $600,000 house and it's going up 0.5% a month, that means the price of the home is running away from you at $3,000 a month. That's how I'm seeing people overpay in this market. Again, the lights start to come on. They realize the biggest risk is the appreciation. And then I'll dial down into some micro data, right? So this is the new MBS Highway report card. In case you haven't seen it, it's beautifully laid out. I'll pull this for a specific area and a specific price range that they're looking at. And I'll show them in your area, the estimate is to see 5.61% appreciation. So values are going up about 0.5% per month. We can also show them that the average days on market in this area is 4 days. 4 days. That is unbelievable. Historically, that has been closer to 45 days. So you're seeing homes sell very, very quickly. And as a result of that, we've seen really incredible appreciation in your specific area that you're looking at. And then I'll bring them to the point of saying, again, what I see, the mistake that I'm seeing some families make is they're waiting for lower rates. And I like to quantify for your price range in the home the home area that you're looking for. Here's what that waiting could look like in terms of lost opportunity cost. Now, there's two different ways that you gain equity in a home. The first is the appreciation. So you can see for just over the next 6 months, it's estimated that you would lose about $5,700 in appreciation. But what most people don't realize is you always also have amortization. Appreciation is kind of like money in the checking account. Amortization is kind of like money in the savings account because you're paying down that mortgage balance. And over time, you can see that the cost of not getting into the market is really significant. So right about at this point, I would just pull my screen down and I would say, how are you feeling about the market now? What questions do you have and how is your level of confidence? And from the start of our first conversation to this point in the Bulletproof Buyer presentation, people's demeanor have completely changed. They are looking at the market completely different. Let me just pause for a second. Barry, what would you add here in terms of any of this context or any scripting help you'd add?
Well, first, I love what you've done here. Love that you've put this together so nicely. All this stuff is available, of course, in MBS Highway. And the nice thing that you've done is that you've taken some of these things and highlighted them. You put them on slides, which is easy to go through for your customer. So I would imagine, Josh, that what you're doing is you're not at all winging things, right? And a lot of salespeople do that. But what you're doing is you're being surgical, you're being strategic, you're being thoughtful, and you know that every single client is valuable. The potential that we can get, not just from them, but from referrals, from repeats, is so valuable. So you're contemplating that. And what you're saying is, look, before I talk to this customer, rather than just wing it, let me, and by the way, team, if it's a customer, if it's a real estate agent, before you do, let's make sure that you're well thought out and planned so that you know what's going to happen. What Josh has gone through here is just a beautiful presentation. And that's what this is about. This is about being professional and presenting in a manner that gives you a really big chance of winning. So, Josh, I just wanted to say this is a beautiful job that you folks have put together.
I have one thing, Josh, that you could potentially add there, right? So
Please.
most people are just looking at the payment differential, right? So let's say if rates were to come down 1%, hey, maybe it's not as much of a savings as you think, because if you want to keep the same loan to value, you're going to borrow more because the home's now more expensive. But let's just say it's $100 cheaper if they were to wait, let's say over 12 months, that's $1,200. you're taking that, but you're giving up, $20,000 in appreciation. Now, listen,
Yes.
we want to refi you when rates do come down. Let's even say that's $5,000, right? You're still to the plus side here by $14,000, $15,000 by buying today versus waiting, right? Really kind of taking all of that into account without making it too complicated.
You're spot on. And actually the close of this slide deck is walking somebody through the different buy down strategies and showing them how their payment would change over the first 2 or 3 years of ownership, but then showing them right next to it how their equity position would change year by year. So they can see, hey, what's the investment to get into this asset? But also what's the amount of appreciation and return on investment that I'm getting? So I couldn't agree with you more. You're absolutely spot on. Thank you guys.
And to take 30 more seconds just to highlight what Dan was saying, and this is right from the tool itself. So if I may just, so any area, we know what the appreciation is in that area. In this area, it happens to be 4.69% a year. The point Dan was making is if you think in a year rates are going to drop 1%, well, in an $800,000 home at 80 LTV is 640, but in a year from now at 4.69% appreciation, I think Dan mentioned if you wanted to keep the same LTV, your mortgage amount would have to increase. So while the payment's still cheaper, it eats into it. And then when you take a look at what the payment differential is, $240 a month times 12 months. So for a year, I paid a higher payment, increased cost to refi. I spent $7,000 more by buying today, but at the end of the year, I benefited by appreciation that's significant and amortization. So, you come out way ahead of the game. People just don't understand that or see that, guys. And I think what you folks are doing is presenting this in a great way. And all these are at your fingertips. Look, team, this is the time for you to really go in, dive deep, and be a master of your craft and know the tools that you have in your hand and be ready to pull anything out to address any problem even before the customer realizes it. That's one.
Really well said. Really well said. So the first, thank you for those for pointing that out. The first part of the presentation is to help people get out of a place of fear, because I believe if people are operating out of a place of fear, they really can't digest the content. They really can't learn. So that's the first part of this presentation. Get them from conjecture to facts and give them confidence. Then we move into strategy. All right. We know that this is a low inventory environment. We know that homes are selling within 4 days of hitting the market. How do I and my team give you an unfair competitive advantage? Well, the best thing we can do is give you a fully underwritten loan approval. So it's the next best thing to a blank check. And the reality is 36% of homes are selling in cash. You may very well compete against cash offers, and we have to be able to position ourselves as prepared to execute as a cash offer. So I just walked them through. That's a complete underwriting. We take you all the way through everything except property, title, and appraisal. And this enables you, if you decide with your real estate partner to waive appraisal and financing contingencies, you have the ability to do that in conjunction with our appraisal gap strategy, which I'll go into. And this part is very important. I'm going to make sure to save 15 minutes for Ryan to hit on this. But there are requirements to this. This is the tie down, as Renee Rodriguez says. And we say, in order for us to take you through that fully underwritten approval requires 3 things. Number 1, we want to make sure that you're actively making offers in the next 60 days. Number 2, we want to make sure that you're okay to provide all documentation, because this is not a pre-approval. We are giving you an underwriting approval. And last but not least, we want to make sure that we're the right lending team for you. And the reason that that's so important and the reason why most banks don't do this for people is because it costs about $1,000. When I quantify how many woman hours and man hours, third-party vendors, all that it takes to get a full underwriting approval, we're going to invest in you about $1,000 in women and man hours to get that underwriting approval. So before we make that investment, we simply ask that you commit to use us as your lending team and you feel confident in us getting you into the home. We're going to talk a little bit more about that scripting with RG at the end, but it's one of the most important pieces of the Bulletproof Buyer program is that tie down. We then go into an appraisal gap strategy, and I'm going to move over this pretty quickly because I assume most of you understand what an appraisal gap strategy is. But basically, if this is a hyper-competitive area and the realtors told me everything's selling in multiple offers, I'm going to bring up the idea right here that appraisals come in low from time to time. It's not unheard of, and it's because of the backward nature of how appraisers arrive at a valuation. So we're going to talk about it. And then I'm going to walk them through a really quick case study. Hey, here's a case study of an actual family that we served where the appraisal came in $75,000 low, but the family was so in love with the home. The sellers had done a $250,000 renovation. It was by far the best home in the area. And the clients wanted this home. And at the end of the day, what we were able to show this family was a strategy so that they could get into the home, and their payment only went up $41 a month. And their cash to close actually only went up by a couple of $100. So if an appraisal comes in low, it's not the end of the world. And at the end of the day, we showed this family that even with the appraisal coming in low and the appraisal gap strategy, they still were likely to build $477,000 in wealth over the next 10 years. Now, if we have someone who has a home to sell, we will hit on our bridge loan products. If we have a client that has a home to sell and is likely going to be competing against cash, we'll talk about a cash program. But if you're not in that kind of a market, feel free to skip over this stuff. It's relevant when it's relevant to the client. Don't puke on them if it's not relevant to them. Use the slides in this presentation to bring the most amount of value to the customer based upon the initial conversation and the challenges that they have. All right. This is this section I think is very important, and it really leads into the strategy of going over rates and fees and mortgage programs. So I walk them through this slide setup that shows the different cycles. And I tell them that mortgage rates are cyclical. And I don't know when those rates are going to go down for sure, but I do know that the mortgage industry is cyclical. And if we look back to the 70s and 80s in the Burns-Volcker period, we see that inflation went up, mortgage rates followed inflation. The Fed tried to slow down the economy by raising the Fed funds rate. They were successful. Inflation dropped from 14% to 5%, and mortgage rates went from 18% to 12%. Now, I'm not going to explain the rest of this slide because I assume you've all heard Barry do it better than me. But when I walk them through this cycle and I show them that history doesn't necessarily repeat, but it does rhyme. And we are very likely headed into a lower mortgage rate environment. And my job as a mortgage advisor is to help you get into the home as soon as possible so that you don't overpay for a home that's going up in value of $3,000 a month. But at the same time, if we find a home that's been on the market for 30, 60 days, if we see a little slowdown in the fourth quarter and the first quarter of next year, we can employ a strategy where we use the seller's funds to help offset our monthly mortgage payment. So I'm kind of setting that up here. Now, when people see that these cycles resulted in recession, they almost always have a question of, well, what does that do to home values? So I've included a slide in here that shows that through 5 out of the last 6 recessions, home values did quite well. It was really only the Great Recession that we saw a major pullback, and that's because the reasons we covered earlier with the overbuilding, the demographic shift, subprime loans, etc. So I put that concern to rest. And then I start walking them through loan strategies. Now, I would normally do this right inside of MBS Highway, but I want to make sure when we've got a webinar with 900 people on it that I don't have any issues navigating or any latency in my internet. So I just took screenshots, but I would walk them through 3 strategies. And I'd say, look, here's where the market is today. This is option number 1 on the far right. And we're looking at a $600,000 purchase price with 10% down, a $540,000 loan amount at 7.875. And we got a payment of $4,591. Now, I know from our initial dreams and goals and fear call that you said, ideally, you want to be in that price range, but you really needed to get a payment under $4,000. So here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to show you 2 other additional strategies called the seller payment subsidy strategies, known to you and I inside the mortgage world as temporary rate buy down strategies. So the first strategy is where we're going to have the seller subsidize your monthly payments, a portion of your monthly payments for the first 2 years. Year number 1, that's going to result in a payment of $38.70. If we can really negotiate well, again, remember these presentations can be co-branded with your realtors. If we can really negotiate well, maybe beat the seller up a little bit on inspections, perhaps we can get the maximum seller subsidy. For those of you in the mortgage world, this is a 3-2-1 buy down, but I wouldn't refer to it as that. I would just call it the maximum seller payment subsidy strategy. And if we can get this strategy to work, this is going to get your first year payment down to $3,500. Then I'll break into a little more specificity. So let's go over this. In year one, with the 3 different strategies, if we can't get the seller to acquiesce to any of our requests, you're looking at a payment of $45.91. If we can get them to do a subsidy equal to 3% of the purchase price of the home, we can get the payment down to $38.70. And if we can get them to do a 6% subsidy, then we can get the payment down to $3,500 in year one. I'm then going to show them the amount of equity they are building in year one. And this is incredibly important. I'm walking them through what is your investment, AKA payment in the home in year one, and what is your return. So check this out. In year one, they've paid down $4,600 in principal. The property's appreciated $29,700, and their $60,000 investment turned into $94,324 in equity. That's a 56% return on investment. Their $60,000 down payment turned into $94,000 in equity. That's a 56% year one return on investment. Let's take a look at what year two would look like. Year two, these payments go up a little bit because the subsidy wears off over time. Of course, I would explain. So here's what your payments could look like in year number two. And here's what your equity position could look like in year number two. In year number two, you'll have $9,600 in principal, $60,000 in estimated appreciation. With a $60,000 investment, you now have $130,000 in equity. That's 117% return on investment over the first 2 years. And then let's take a look at what year number three would look like. Walk them through what year number three. And at some point in here, I'm going to say, but remember, mortgage rates are cyclical. If I'm doing my job right, the closing of your loan is where our relationship begins. But I'm going to take your mortgage under management. And from that point forward, I will also always be employing professional grade analytics that are tracking your mortgage and your mortgage rate relative to the market. And the moment that it makes sense for me to contact you to do a no closing cost refinance, I'll do that proactively. You never have to watch the mortgage markets again. So I seriously doubt we ever get to year three. But if we do, here's what it would look like. And then I walk them through year number three. Year number three, you have $168,000 in equity on your initial $60,000 down payment, which is a 281% return on investment in the first 3 years. So at this point, team, and I have one more slide. I'm going to turn it over to you, RG, and of course, Barry, if you have anything to add, please jump in. But this presentation is supposed to defuse the fear. It's supposed to educate that mortgage rates are cyclical. It's supposed to communicate to them that our job starts when the loan closes. And then my job is to proactively take that mortgage under management and watch it for the right timing to restructure that indebtedness. And it shows them that if they work closely with me and their realtor partner, we're going to try to navigate them through this higher interest rate environment with a much lower monthly payment while they build wealth. Last thing I'll show here, and I'm going to turn it over, guys. So the question is, a question that we get all the time is, how do you turn this into a conversion conversation into a lead generation presentation? Well, we go into our realtors' offices, we give the same presentation, and we add this slide to the end. Typically, realtors have been programmed and are really good at sending clients that are ready to write an offer and they're ready for pre-approved. But they don't necessarily think of the clients that are in the kind of not sure, not ready state. And I've never received a referral from a realtor where the client said, it's not the right time. I do not want to buy a property. But we want those referrals. We want to take people from fear to confidence. And as we run people through this presentation, we can do that. So this presentation can be both a conversion and lead generation strategy for y'all. Barry, what would you add?
Well, it's a great presentation. I love what's happening here is you're taking things like rate, which everybody's so negative on, and you're showing wealth creation. And that's what we want to do, right? As advisors, this is a way to show return on investment plus the amount of wealth that's being created. We all know that there's a lack of savings in this country. There's a lack of preparation for retirement, and you're hitting on things that are extremely important that people are very sensitive to, because who does not want to create that kind of wealth?
Amen. Well said, Barry. Mark, over to you and over to Ryan. I think we're going to move on to the dreaded rate shopper in the time that we have next.
Yeah, I don't want to take up time. I know that you guys are getting a lot of impact. I'll continue to just try to pound away at the answers as much as I can. And Ryan, take it away, bud. Help us understand, okay, we've done all this work. Client wants to go with us. And then we get that call on the day of escrow. Ryan, I love you. You've provided so much value. I just want to be candid.
Yeah.
I want to be transparent. I want to be a really good guy while I tell you I'm not going to go with you.
Yeah. So team, I'd like to just think, when was the last time you gave up your weekend or you poured your heart and soul into taking care of a family? You've helped them get their offer accepted, and then they took all of your hard work and they just found a cheaper version of you. I know how that feels. Right? And it's not just terrible for you. It's terrible for your entire team who worked on that file, for your family who sacrificed time with you, but now has nothing to show for it. My goal and our entire goal with this platform is to ensure that doesn't happen anymore. So the first thing to help you understand is that the bulletproof buyer that we created, the presentation that Josh just went through, that is specifically designed to help people go from I'm not sure to I can't wait. Right? As we do that through education, the personal analysis, and we create this sense of reciprocity, because it's almost hard for some people to believe that they can really get all of this value from a mortgage advisor. But I want to be clear here is that if you only use a bulletproof buyer presentation we gave you, you're still going to face the same challenge that every single one of us has experienced, which is your client won't fully know the answer to the question of, well, why you? You see, a lot of loan officers talk about advice over price, but I want to be careful with that statement, because even though our bulletproof buyer and our pre-purchase consultations help us deliver all the wisdom and give them all the data that's available on MBS Highway, the client can still take that advice and your personalized strategy and just go to XYZ Mortgage online for a lower rate. Well, the question is, why do they do that? It's because they think that a mortgage is just a mortgage. And if they already have the answers to the test, well, they can just now go to any company and get a cheaper version of that mortgage. So to make it abundantly clear that we are truly a more valuable partner, we use what's called a pre-purchase consultation, where we show our clients the real value to them before the transaction, during the transaction, and most importantly, long after the transaction is over. Now, we go over all this in the boot camp, but the one part of the presentation that I want to help you with today is the client commitment, right? This is the script that we've integrated into our pre-purchase consultation. So let's jump into that. So in the pre-purchase consultation, I'm talking about all the ways we're going to help them before the transaction, how we help them, look like cash, how we help them get their offer accepted, how we help them save money on the price of the home. I talk about the during process, and I always tell the clients, this is actually the least important is the during process. It's unfortunately where most of the mortgage industry really focuses their time on customer service and speed and all those things, which every mortgage company should be doing at a high level right now. But Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the most important part of what we are going to do for you and your family is we're not just going to help you to own a home over the next 30 days. We're going to help you to become a very successful homeowner over the next 30 years. And then let me show you how we're going to do that. But so again, you go into that whole thing, and we teach this in the boot camp that we'll talk about here in a second. But then I move back to all these things won't really happen until you actually own a home, right? That's the first step here. So the best way we can help you do that, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, is to make you look or experience yourself like a cash offer in the eyes of the seller. And we'll want to get your loan fully underwritten. And as Josh talked about, we talk about this is going to take time, money, and energy from our team, right? It's going to cost us roughly $1,000, and our team's going to really dive into this. But what it will do is it'll help you save money on the price of the home. It will help you have a higher likelihood of getting your offer accepted. And you won't have to go through the make offer, get rejected, make offer, get rejected, because you'll be better suited as an offer, right? You'll stand out more. And we want to help you do that. We want to help you in all these ways, but I just need to get 3 commitments from you. Well, the first commitment is pretty simple. We just want to make sure that you're willing to get us all the documentation up front that most lenders ask for in the 11th hour. Right? If you've ever been through the pre-approval process before, somebody gets a few pieces of information, we look at it, we think, yeah, it's okay. But then we ask for all the real stuff during the contract, which is frustrating. So as long as you're okay getting me that stuff up front, we'd more than happy to process this for you. And the client says, yeah, no problem. That's totally okay. Great. Next thing is I just want to make sure that you're going to be writing offers, or that you're intending to be writing offers over the next 30 days or so, because if not, that's totally okay, right? I don't want to pressure you. I don't want to, create any urgency that's not there. It's just, we don't need to do all the full underwriting and have our team work on it if you're not really ready, because then we'd have to do it again later, right? If you're not intending on writing offers. So what are your thoughts there? No, we definitely want to buy a house, because again, you've just convinced them that waiting to buy a home does not make sense, right? So now they've committed to actually writing offers. And then Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the last thing that I just want to make sure we have a commitment is that you believe we're the right lender for you, right? As long as you're committed to utilizing us and our team, we're more than happy to do this, because again, we don't charge for this because we know it's going to help you substantially. But we have had in the past unfortunate circumstances where somebody goes into contract and they fear sets in, they start getting buyer's remorse, and they think, I need to get the cheapest mortgage possible. And obviously we all know that's not true, but some people think that. And we've had clients that have tried to leave us, and then they've, it's jeopardized their transaction. It's just created a lot of challenges. And so I just want to make sure that you're confident and you're committed that we're the right lender for you. What are your thoughts? They're going to say one of two things. They're either going to say, yep, we're in. Great. You now have a verbal commitment, which is a lot more helpful than not getting one, right? And you know what to expect. Or the client says, I love all you guys are doing, and I think this is all great. I haven't done a lot of shopping yet, and I've heard that we're supposed to look online, and I don't know what your rates are compared to others. And right at that moment, you say, look, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I totally get it, right? Like, we highly encourage people to do their due diligence. I just want to make sure you're doing it now, as opposed to when you get your offer accepted, because that creates a lot of challenges, and I've seen it jeopardize transactions before. So we actually have questions that I want to give to you. So I'm going to email you 9 different questions to help you shop for a mortgage. Right. And so we'll then send them those questions. And then and I'll say, look, why don't you do this? Call all the lenders that you want to call and just make sure you're asking these questions. And then, today's Friday, let's follow up on, Tuesday. And then let's just see what happened. Right. It would encourage you to call some over the weekend, right? Just to see if they're available, because you're going to need that when it comes time to write offers and have availability to talk to listing agents. But then just let's reconvene on Tuesday. And these questions are designed to help mortgage professionals just fall on their face, because most mortgage professionals aren't trained on how to answer these questions. Right? They're questions like, okay, XYZ mortgage lender, how are you going to help me and my family grow our generational wealth through real estate over time? We don't do that. We're just a mortgage company. Right. So when you're either going to get the commitment, or you're going to help them shop, and they'll realize that the other lenders do not have their best interest in mind. They're just trying to sell them debt. Right. And then that client will ultimately come back to you, and then you can move forward. But what you do not want to do, especially in this environment, is just trade your time for hope. Right. You want to make sure that you have a commitment from the consumer, because we're going to put a lot of time, energy, and effort in. We just want to make sure that's matched. And we want to know up front if we have more work to do to get their commitment. So let me pause and see if there's any questions. Feel free to raise your hand or type it in the chat. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys may have, and then we'll move to the last part of this.
RG, we've been hammering through questions in the chat, and I know that we're pressed for time, but
got it.
It's that I've been using the same formula, and it gives you leverage when that happens. If you don't do it, you have no leverage, right? Like, what can you say if you don't have that conversation? And I was scared to have that conversation. Quite frankly, and I've been doing this for a long time. So I know some of the people on this webinar are scared too, and you challenged me to have it, and my results have been great. So I just want to encourage any of you, if you're feeling like I was feeling, like you don't like conflict, and it's a lot better than going to escrow and getting shopped.
Yeah. Well, in the sake of time, I'm going to pass this over to Krista, who is the president of Triibe, and she's going to talk about our upcoming boot camp. But before I do that, I really want to help you understand why I believe this is so important. Right. I genuinely believe that it is imperative that we become what buyers and realtors need us to become. Like, our job as mortgage professionals has fundamentally changed. It used to be our job was to work with people who want to buy or refinance their home. Right. We do a great job. We close on time, and we just did what's expected of us. That's changed, right? Now, to make it through and to really thrive in the years ahead, we have to do what is not expected of us, right? What Josh showed you is not expected of a mortgage professional, right? And what I'm talking about in our client consultations and getting the commitments and talking about our before, during, and long after value propositions, that is not expected of a mortgage professional. So to help you with this, we've created what we call the Perfect Conversion Partner Bootcamp. It's a 3-month bootcamp. It starts in a couple weeks. We also partnered with Barry and the entire Highway team to fully scholarship their CMA, Certified Mortgage Advisor course, and that entire designation for you. And if you're not aware what that is, that's essentially just 30 years of Barry's insights packed into about an 8-hour course that ensures you have the economic knowledge you need to separate from the competition. This bootcamp turns that economic knowledge into the scripts and presentations that you saw today and that we know are working today to generate and convert leads. And lastly, if I'm just going to be super honest here, I really believe that only 20% of mortgage professionals are going to make it through this. All right, I also strongly believe that the people who join us in this boot camp will be a part of that 20%. So with that said, I'm going to move over to Krista to share about boot camp, and excited to hear about it.
Thank you, Ryan. Yes, you know what? Unlike any other coaching in the mortgage industry, this 90-day program offers a full wraparound experience. It includes 7 hours of tactical video training on deployable presentations and scripts. Like what Josh shared was like one example of what it includes, and I'll go through the rest. Then we've got a 90-day implementation plan, right? So we give you the video training, we give you the script or the presentation that you download, and then we teach you how to make it your own in that day-by-day implementation guide. Tells you what to be doing every day. And then we get together almost every 2 weeks in 8 live webinars over the 90 days to answer your questions. When you go to implement it and you go, okay, I implemented it, I said this, and then they said this, what would you say back to them? We live script during those webinars. And then we also offer a WhatsApp group so that you can check in daily. We post the homework in there. People are asking questions of the coaches. You can have daily interaction on your implementation journey. People are sharing that they are implementing, that they're doing their homework, the results that they're seeing. And it's really inspirational to wrap you around. And then, of course, what RG just shared is you get the Barry Habib's Certified Mortgage Advisor course and designation. And by the way, that works for first-time access if you've never completed it before, or it can pay for your renewal if you've already completed the course in years past. So, and by the way, if you do your renewal, it actually pays for your required 8 national CE credits for the year. So it's like feeding 3 birds with one hand. You're probably wondering, okay, well, what's in the course, right? So here we go. We got 2 modules in the course. The first one is buyer conversion, and that teaches you how to unfreeze and bulletproof your buyers. Session 1 starts with just getting the attention of buyers during that first phone call. And we're going to take you all the way from getting the attention of buyers all the way through the contract meeting. And those meetings are sequential and they lead one to the next. So that's session 1. Session 2 is what and how to present during that dreams and goals call, the dreams and goals and fears call right now. Session 3 is then what and how to present at the pre-purchase consultation, which follows the dreams and goals call if it's applicable. Session 4 is what and how to present that bulletproof buyer presentation to both buyers and realtors, right? We had questions in the chat. Do you present that to realtors? Absolutely. With realtors, it is a lead generation tool. With buyers, it is a lead conversion tool. And then session 5, how to lead the contract meeting with buyers, including what to say to stop buyers, to stop them from trying to control when you lock the loan, right? We want Barry to do that, not your buyers. And then, so that gets us through about day 50, 55. And then we go into module 2, which is realtor acquisition. Again, we take you from getting the attention of realtors all the way through. You should be having a business partnership planning meeting at the end that locks down exactly how you're going to be partnering together and how you're going to show up together. So session 1 is getting the attention of realtors. Session 2 is the presentation you will deliver to realtors after you get their attention. Session 3 is what and how to present at a private introductory meeting, because that presentation that you deliver to realtors, we teach you how to do it one-to-many. You can do it one-to-one as well, but the goal is to then get a private introductory meeting with realtors. So that's session 3 on how to run that. And then at the end of that private introductory meeting, you will be setting up, you will be scheduling your business partnership planning meeting. And session 4 is what and how to present during that. So team, you're probably wondering, like, when does this all start? Look, sign up by October 25th. That's in 12 days. Your 90-day plan and pre-work starts on October 26th. You're going to watch that first training session on how to get buyers' attention, and then we'll be answering questions and live scripting during our first bootcamp webinar on November 1st. Pro tip, get in now and complete your CMA before we really get going on October 26th.
Yeah, that's awesome. Krista, thank you so much. And again, to Barry and Dan here for providing a lot of this stuff. It's just taking the stuff that Barry is providing. And hey, how do you go get clients with this? Tactically, how? Show me exactly what to do. If that's you, we've got you. And Darren, you've been here on the panelist. Darren is one of the people that is currently going through our boot camp. Darren, don't sugarcoat this. You're not a plant. You're not an actor. You're just somebody that we saw that's implementing this stuff. In 30 seconds or less, just give people a preview of what it's been like for you, just experiencing the boot camp.
Sure. It's going to be hard to keep to 30 seconds because I could talk about this for like 3 hours with what you guys have taught us. So I'm going to do Josh Meadows' method. I've got 3 things I want to cover. There's the immediate tools that you get for both the client acquisition and conversion, and then also the conversations with realtors. I was doing this stuff about a week into the program, and I had conversations I've never had with clients before that blew their mind. One client said, "Hey, are you sure that I'm qualified to work with you?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? I've never heard a client talk to me like." It's always like me fishing for business is like they're like wanting and eager to work with me. The teaching methodology gives you something that Ryan talks about a lot, and it's confidence. I've only been doing this for a short while. I came from a completely different industry. After going through their trainings and the methodology that Chris talked about too, and but it's almost on-demand training with the WhatsApp group, the confidence level was just blown away back to where I was in my previous professional life. And to Ryan's point, what he just mentioned as well, we're part of something meaningful and bigger here. I was searching for folks to like-minded people that really care about the clients, and it's not a transaction. This is it. I'm part of this tribe, and it couldn't be better. Although I wish the spelling was right, but I know that's a .com issue.
We do too.
But it's really a really big thing, and it's really special to be part of it. So I really appreciate you guys, everything you're doing for the industry, and you're doing for communities. It's powerful.
Man,
thank you, Darren.
So inspiring.
Yeah, team. I know we have a couple minutes left, but I just want to really strongly encourage you. Just don't go into November, December, and January, right? The winter of the winter, right? Like with rates where they are, going into seasonality, without a program designed to make sure that you're part of the 20% who stay viable, right? We designed this program for you, right? The first boot camp we just held showed us how well this is working in our business, and you just heard it from Darren. Our clients saw such great success that we're doing it again specifically for you, specifically for the winter season. So don't wait on this. Do this for your clients. Do it for your team, do it for your business partners, but most importantly, sign up, right? But do this for yourself, right? To reach your fullest potential and find that confidence level that all of us need to get to that next gear, as Darren mentioned. So thank you all for being here. We are really excited to see you all in the boot camp in a few weeks, and feel free to email us with questions, click on the links that everyone's been putting in the chat. And we're really excited to recreate what this industry can be, and just want to thank the entire Highway team for being such amazing partners and helping us change this industry for the better.
Well, we thank you. We thank you guys for providing great value to our subscribers. The comments are wonderful that we see here. Team, we know this is not an easy time for you. We're trying to do everything we can to bring you wonderful value to help you get through this, because what's going to come out on the other side is good things. Those of us that have been around a little bit, we know that from experience. This time will be no different. You know, when we talk about the problems that we had in 2008, 2009, 2010, and you compare it to this market, those problems were structural. That was a value equity problem. This is a rate problem. It's a lot easier for rates to drop 1.5% than it is to get 25% equity in a home. So it is a easier problem to fix. It is not an easy problem to go through, but we will get through this, and the other side of this will be a lot better, team. Thanks for everybody being on. Have a great weekend, everybody.